us, our value is so intangible because what we're really giving people is a system that works. And so the opposite of not having a system that works is a system that doesn't work. So how do you measure that? How do you figure it out? And I think the way that we've been thinking about it is what's the current pain and what's the solve for that? And how are we going to measure that we've solved that?
Oh, I love that. Hello, partners. One topic that we're asked about constantly is how do the best partners get to the top, right? What might have worked 5 years ago or even 2 years ago simply isn't true today. So what's the roadmap? What are the secrets of a solutions partner that's tiered to elite in 2024? What are the secrets for a top app partner? When it comes to providing guidance to ambitious partners, there's no better voice than those who've done it themselves. So here with us today are Sam Anderson, CEO of Origin63, who tiered to elite in our solutions partner program in March of this year, which is awesome. And Daniel Zarick, CEO of Arrows, named an essential app for Service Hub during our spring product spotlight, which went live last week. I'm super excited about this show. Sam, Daniel, thank you so much for being here and welcome to Good Morning Ecosystem.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, this is great. And also Sam and I know each other, so we were really excited to be on the same episode together.
Oh yeah, absolutely. We nerd out about Service Hub all the time, so.
Yeah, it's a good pairing.
That's awesome.
We'll start with Sam. Sam, congrats on making Elite this March. That is such a huge accomplishment.
Yeah.
You have scaled massively over the last couple of years. Can you share more about Origin63, your path to Elite, what capabilities you focused on? How did you think about it?
Yeah, absolutely. So we've been a HubSpot partner for actually about a decade now, but really hit our growth in about 3 years ago. Major reason was that we ended up focusing entirely on HubSpot implementation with the change management focus. So we really make sure that we're helping teams not only set up HubSpot correctly, but to adopt it fully as well. And then the other key to our success was really niching down. So about 2 years ago, we made a big gamble and we decided to really focus on Service Hub as our niche and our specialty, which back then, Service Hub really wasn't much more than just a ticketing tool, but we saw the potential and we were really excited about it. So we went all in. And so we really have become kind of that go-to partner for Service Hub over the last year and a half. And we're really excited about the explosion of what's about to happen for Service Hub. And so that's kind of fueled our growth this year and last year as well.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Daniel, I'll go to you. So Arrows was named this essential app. I know a lot about your history and just the grit and perseverance you've had in this ecosystem. You created Arrows because you were looking to solve some key problems for teams that didn't get a lot of engineering support, but make big business impact. Tell us more about your decision to start Arrows and the focus on onboarding.
Yeah, well, so at Twilio, I was an early product manager a long time ago, and I worked on internal tools for a lot of it and really loved like my colleagues being my customer in a lot of ways, and it was really satisfying. But in some ways, I think, part of your question that's interesting, like Sam's answer around them focusing on Service Hub is, why should success teams be inside HubSpot, like inside the same platform where your marketing sales teams are? So that was like us also 2 years ago, we started focusing on HubSpot, and we were already building for customer success and onboarding teams because of that, wanting to serve these teams, like you mentioned, that aren't historically served by product and engineering teams. But when we started focusing on the CRM and saying like a lot of these teams should be running out of the same platform where they're running their sales and marketing systems, they shouldn't be buying separate customer success platforms. Like as an internal tools product manager at Twilio, like separate systems was our nightmare, data in different places and trying, we had different operational teams internally that were all trying to operate off of different sources of truth in a lot of ways and had different capabilities. So we saw a lot of the vision and a lot of the power of having everybody in one system, like what that brought to the team. And so Arrows as an app, okay, here's the thing we solve, customer onboarding, but like, where should that fit into how the company's running things? And we like Sam and Origin63 took an early bet on Service Hub and that like, all right, what happens when you close a deal in HubSpot in your sales pipeline? You don't just stop there. Like, actually, let's bring all of that into one platform. And in the Service Hub launch lately is all the new features, the customer success tooling, et cetera, is really kind of closing the loop on HubSpot's intention to serve everything post sale, and we're really thrilled about that.
Yeah, that
That's
is our
awesome.
goal, right? To have this unified, customer view across every part of that life cycle. And the life cycle doesn't end when the deal
Yeah.
closes, like you've
No.
learned.
Right.
If anything, it starts, right? Like, it's
Yeah.
just
I was
it's
just
that
going to
like day
say,
one.
yeah,
Day one.
it's like the beginning.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I mean, our deals close pretty quickly, and hopefully they stay around as customers like multiple times longer than the sales process was. So
Yeah.
it
We,
really
we say
is
that
day one.
sometimes we're like, your most important customer is the one you already have. So,
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
just want to call out our deals close pretty quickly. I like the flex, Daniel.
Hey, well, we didn't talk about how many. We could use more.
Nice. I love it. It's interesting. We're a solutions partner and an app partner, top both. You both mentioned focus, and I just wanted to double click on that together for a second. Like, maybe Sam, if we could spend a second on that. Like,
Yeah.
as you mentioned, you were a partner for a while, and then you made this decision. Like, if we were in the room in that moment, like, how did that happen for you and the team?
Yeah, it's probably very similar to Daniel's journey, but for us, we really realized after talking to service teams and starting to talk more and more about marketing and sales teams together with service, there was this huge part of the ecosystem that was really not being serviced and not being paid attention to. And marketing and sales, we were all very established in that already. HubSpot's very established in that already. So we saw this opportunity to ride a wave while it was still coming up, and it really hasn't even quite crested yet. It's a really big market. There are big pains, really big pains in service and success. And so after talking to teams and realizing after a few deals that this is an opportunity for us to get in with larger teams within organizations, to get sticky within their tech stack, and also find ourselves in a space that not a lot of people are playing in, it was just kind of a no-brainer. And we went hard into it.
Yeah. Makes sense.
I imagine you wanted to be like the obvious choice for a certain segment of customer, right? And that was what our thinking was too when we started focusing more on HubSpot and on onboarding. It's like, if you fit these parameters, how do you become one of the obvious, if not the obvious choice? And Origin63 is like, when I think of Service Hub or like a Zendesk transition, you were one of the few that come very top of mind, right? You all planted yourselves there.
And same for you, right? In onboarding.
When you're both making that turn and you're deciding intentionally to focus, like, operationally, what changes? Like, you've got to retool your team, you got to make investments that way. Like, if I'm a partner out there, either app or solutions partner, and I'm like, it sounds like focus is key. We've had others mention there's riches in the niches, right? I'm not saying that in the French way, but like, when you start to focus, what do you need to do to make that like a reality?
I mean, from the product side, it's very interesting because we had to niche down and focus very aggressively both on how to be a best-in-class app integration, app partner with HubSpot. So what does that look like? How do you fit most ergonomically into the platform where customers do their work day to day, where customers of HubSpot live? And a lot of tools, especially 2 years ago when we started, a lot of the app integrations were data extractive. We looked at HubSpot and the CRM as a gold mine of data. Well, let's go plug in and then suck all that into our system, and then we'll have you do crap in Arrows, right? And then you realize that nobody wants another inbox. Nobody wants another system to go live in. And so we've flipped our entire way of building product to actually focus on the CRM first. So Grant, our sales guy, loves to say when he's talking to prospects, like, as we build features, we don't just build a new feature into Arrows. We look at it through the lens of how does this affect our HubSpot integration for everything. And then by extension, all of our go-to-market has to follow. How do we now attract customers who use HubSpot, and not only use HubSpot, but use HubSpot for sales and post-sales, or who at least are searching for that stuff. So, I mean, in many ways at the time, it felt, when we focused on HubSpot, like not a massive change. A lot of the parts of the company didn't change. But in reality, we made a lot of fundamental, like everything changed. Every decision we made had to now go through, how does this affect how we exist in the HubSpot ecosystem? And by extension, how do we become a good and helpful and active player? Like how do people know that we're here for the right reasons and trying to do the right things and express that through all activities, product and go to market.
Yeah. I love that
Yeah.
clarity. I love one of the things that Yamini, I think, to her credit, has really brought to HubSpot is like the long-term strategy and vision, and having everything work backwards from there, having everyone be aligned around where we're going, which is so powerful, which is what I'm hearing and what you're saying.
I'll even building on that is, if you think about HubSpot and where they're at now, where you're growing over the next decade, I'm sure Sam had the same thought, which is, don't we want to be one of the top partners that focus on this segment of the platform if you're going to be a dominant growing platform for the next decade? And don't we want to then grow early? So when both of us made those decisions, our teams, they were very non-consensus decisions to focus so aggressively on those parts of the platform, and only now are we seeing some of
Yeah.
that play out where it's starting to become maybe slightly more of an obvious good bet. But 2 years ago, it was not an obvious choice for either of us, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I love
Well,
it.
that's
It
why
was
they're
not.
strategic bets, which I think, we love bringing both of you on the show because you need that kind of bold conviction. And when it already shows all the data, like it's great. People should come, but it's happened already. So, I love the conviction for the early bets.
Yeah, and I think making the pivot as a services company is
Mhm.
really just about ensuring that we have a strong philosophy around what it is that we are solving for and how it is that we personally solve for it, independent of necessarily HubSpot too. Because of course we're selling the software, but we're servicing on top of that software. So it's important for our organization to make sure that we have a unique voice in the mix to say, you can solve these problems with our services on top of HubSpot. And I think that was the biggest shift for us is, we've always sold HubSpot. We do work across all of HubSpot, but when it was focusing on Service Hub specifically, service teams, success teams have very different problems than marketing and sales. So it was really about re-educating ourselves and our organization about how to talk to service. What are their problems? What are their pain points? What are their goals? And how do we solve that using the HubSpot platform?
So Sam, I'm gonna read some feedback that I gathered in preparation for
I'm going to
this
blush.
episode. I hope it's okay. I hope it's all right. You ready? These are quotes
Yes.
from HubSpot reps. Origin63 has top technical capabilities. They are all in on Service Hub, very technical, deep connections with engineers. They're very good at selling. They lead training sessions on how to sell. Also, just the nicest people, incredibly patient and kind. Sam and Nikita run a really tight ship. There's mention of the playbooks and your defined processes and how they help you scale in so many different ways. First, congratulations. That is some pretty incredible feedback from a
Thank you.
pretty demanding crew, if I can say that. Second, it touches on kind of two areas, selling and servicing. And it sounds like you're good at doing both of those things. So I wanted to ask you, how do you balance those within Origin63? Like the need to both sell and deliver. Can you talk to us
Yeah.
about that?
Yeah, and I think Daniel touched on this a little bit when he was talking about arrows too, which is the idea that the journey doesn't stop when sales stops. It only really begins. And so we've always kind of had that lens to both the sales and the servicing side. As a service-based company, you have to be good at both. You have to. So it's really about making sure that we have a cohesive story from start to finish. So one of the things that our team has done a lot of work on is laying out our customer journey and really making sure that there's continuity from the sales message all the way to the messaging of the sales to service handoff. So where our team picks up and starts working with our clients, the clients feel like we've already had that conversation. So we want to make sure that we're keeping that ball rolling. And we're just really making sure that during the services side that we're buttoned up. So that's where the change management piece comes in really heavily, ensuring that our clients know what's coming next, what's going to be the change for their organization, getting them bought into that change early and ensuring that we're educating along those steps has been part of that overall process. So when it comes to balance, it's just out of necessity, really. I don't think that you can be successful without being successful in both sales and service. And it's about putting the customer in the middle of that, making sure that we're solving again for their pains and solving for their experience, really making sure that we're a student of their pain and really just always striving to get better and better and better.
HubSpot has a statement where we like to zig where others zag. What's a decision either of you have made recently that felt like a zig when everyone else was zagging? Has that aided in your growth? Did it work out?
We, extend across Sales Hub and Service Hub in many ways, but Arrows, we kind of message is in many ways, the glue between sales and service. You close a deal in your sales pipeline, you hand it off. But really the big non-consensus thing is back to focusing on HubSpot, one in the first place 2 years ago, and now continuously. Like it's been a continuously non-consensus bet for an app partner. Solutions partners, Sam, you've been around for 10 years. The solutions partner program has been 12 or 14 years old now. And, as a public company, 40, 50% or so of HubSpot revenue is driven by solutions partners. It's a lot more obvious that there's, a lot of value to be created there, but there is not an obviously large opportunity for the app ecosystem. And a lot of our own investors, other founders, when we made that choice, were like, HubSpot, you're focusing. What are you doing? Why HubSpot? Why not Salesforce or why not? And we just saw that there's a lot more opportunity here to make a mark in an ecosystem that's early in developing. Karen, you hadn't been hired yet when we first started focusing on HubSpot. When you came in, we were pretty excited. And there's still this transition happening. And just like the Service Hub kind of launch and the platform evolution for HubSpot is still, in
early.
the process, right? Yeah. It's very active. And like Sam mentioned, the next 6 to 9 months, I think, are going to be very big for that transition. And I think, you had to start laying the groundwork and build the relationships with other partners like Sam and other app partners, but also with the HubSpot AEs and CSMs and customers and really understand how people use the platform. And, that stuff takes time. So, for us, it's year 3 now. We're in year 3 of being a partner, and that's when really it starts to come together. So we're pretty excited for that. And that has been a very big zig for a long time.
Yeah, I agree. Cool. I think when I first met you, Daniel, you mentioned that to me. You're like, every VC, and I was coming from a Series B startup, Greylock index funded, and every VC is telling me not HubSpot. I'm like, I'm going to change that perception. You just gave me a really audacious goal.
I couldn't raise money off of it for a little bit. There was extra room in our last round, and it was hard to raise the funding that we wanted. We didn't need it, but we wanted it. And now, even yesterday, I had a firm that we've talked to a few times that, just a catch up, but they're like, hey, so, seems like stuff's heating up in HubSpot. And, I was talking to them and they mentioned you all. I figured we should catch up. We kind of are expecting that narrative even on the outside to change, but really it changes, like you and I talked about, Karen, first, it changes by the reality on the ground changing when apps start to really do well and people on the outside feel a bit of FOMO. That, oh, wow, like
for sure.
Those partners are going to market together and they're scaling and that's when people get excited and they funding and dollars and new founders come in and fill the holes in the product that, we all get to partner with.
Yeah, that is our map. I always share my vision of the 3 phases, and like, we're going to open up a whole bunch of stuff. This is our largest API release year ever. And then we're going to make the flywheel work. And then we will be a big enough destination. It just happens. The momentum snowballs that way.
First, I would just echo, not only was Daniel excited when you joined Karen, the rest of HubSpot was excited, and the rest of the ecosystem. So we're all glad that you're here.
I remember hearing different things from everybody else.
There he goes.
Just varied levels of excitement, but all excited.
Daniel, you always push me to think bigger. And we are entering what HubSpot calls our think big season, where we kind of, we do an offsite, we think big, we think about these big things. If we were going to do something, where would you want us to think bigger? What do you want us to think about? And same for you, Sam.
Well, yeah, like I said, I think that question, there's 2 sides to that question. I'm always pushing you to think big, but I do it in a way that hopefully is understood, because it's a better together sort of narrative. I want the platform to be bigger, and that helps, accrue some value to us as well. For us, I think the thing that we look around and see is there's still a lot of, feet dragging in terms of really understanding that HubSpot is trying to become an app platform and what that means for the benefit of everybody. What's different about, I think, the app ecosystem versus HubSpot historically has built everything in-house. Like, it loves to own and control the product. And by extension, also with solutions partners. It loves to co-sell with solutions partners, and they've been an awesome channel. But typically one partner wins a deal, like customer, right? Like, Sam, if a different partner wins a deal, you probably don't get to work with them. I'm sure there's not many where there's two partners involved. Whereas in the app ecosystem, that's very different. It's not so
One
much
of
of
many.
actually a great, I'm sure many of your best customers have 20 or more app integrations, 30 integrations connected. Obviously, a handful really helps. And, I think HubSpot still is undergoing this transition of, well, what does that mean to promote and encourage growth to app partners, both inside the product? Does that take value away from us as HubSpot controlling the platform and controlling what's in there, and also maybe take value away from us? And same with, I think, the solutions partners kind of whole ecosystem, both from partners down to marketing to sales, haven't really truly bought in on these shared incentives of what it means to win together when you're actually an app platform and an app ecosystem that's very robust and growing together. It's not a zero sum or like kind of a low sum game. It's a very, very collective win sort of situation.
Expansive.
Yeah,
Yep.
I very much believe that very, very much. We care a lot about ease of use, time of value, unified customer, but that's data from all sources.
Yeah.
That's workflows in all parts of your life cycle. And how do you do that in a way that it's better together?
As a solutions partner, what I would love to continue to see from HubSpot is that message of HubSpot being an enterprise platform. I think Daniel kind of hit on this, that we're still a little bit in that season where, we're getting bigger, we're getting to a certain point, Salesforce. Right. And they've been in the market for so long that it's just like this default, and we're basically fighting a giant. And we're winning. We are winning in a lot of instances. But when does HubSpot become the default? That's what I would love to see, is when people are like, oh, we're growing, we're getting bigger, we've got all these disparate tools. Salesforce can't do it because Salesforce is cobbled together with a bunch of different apps. Like, we should go to HubSpot. When does HubSpot become the default enterprise tool? That's what I'm living for. I want to see that day.
I agree. I mean, we're the same. Like, our ACVs are constrained by that narrative too, and we're eager to keep chipping away at it with you. I think that you hit on something there too, like the cobbled not crafted narrative that HubSpot always has had about the product is strong, and we're seeing this, Karen, with a lot of the new APIs that are going to be coming the next year or two. There's still an opportunity to make sure those integrations continue to be, that we promote the integrations that do treat the platform best. There hasn't been historically a distinction in an obvious way between a data extractive integration and one that adds unique value and capabilities to the platform. And, I think Arrows has taken a very aggressive approach in making sure we are mindful of how we integrate with the platform and the workflows we enable for customers of the platform. And as we expand the capabilities of what's possible inside the product, it's going to be, I think, more important to make sure we bubble up, like, people in the ecosystem pay attention to who's doing well, and they try to copy who's doing well, both in go-to-market and product. So as we bubble up who's doing things as HubSpot would like them to be, and makes a crafted experience inside the platform, I think that will be important to make sure that they don't, as we expand, end up in this sort of cobbled together experience that Salesforce has.
That is, very top of mind for me. If our developer platform team is listening, we think about how we codify those principles. So we're crafted, not cobbled. And you'll see that in the way that we did UI extensions. There are certain canvases and certain components that we allow folks to like plug into. And then we're very careful about like this blank canvas, because we don't want this, cobbled experience. We want it to feel crafted. And then we want best practices. So we learn from the best, and we want to feature them as well.
Yeah, I think the crafted, not cobbled experience extends. I mean, I think there's a camp that thinks about it specifically related to the HubSpot product, but it absolutely extends to the entire ecosystem, app and solutions partners. And all three of you are so core to ensuring that happens. You both mentioned that you know each other, that you work well together. I fundamentally believe solutions partners are key to making sure that it's a crafted experience and a good one for customers, and they're seeing value quickly. And our app partners are so core to extending the platform. Can we talk a little bit about how you two work together, and like app and solutions partners sort of partnering to serve customers and help them grow better?
absolutely. I'll spearhead it, and then Daniel, you can pick it up, because I know our journeys are really kind of they align and then deflect at a certain point, right? But for solutions partners, it's about making sure that our clients are getting everything they need to solve for their challenge. So in a lot of cases, we can do a lot of things on side of HubSpot, but in many cases, including in an onboarding experience where you want it to be really seamless, that's where partners like Arrows come in, and we can bring Arrows in and integrate it within the HubSpot environment and extend that experience of using the HubSpot UI into an app that works really seamless. And so as partners, it's about knowing and identifying which apps we should bring in to the overall relationship with our clients. And Daniel, I'm sure it's somewhat similar, but opposite, right?
Well, it's similar to like HubSpot's own relationship with solutions partners, where, you know, on one hand, yes, we can only really batch one to a customer, but is that customer coming to us because we only serve HubSpot customers? A lot of the times they already have a partner attached if they'd like one, and so we're navigating that and figuring out how we work with partners. But a lot of what we think about, we don't have a formal solutions partner program yet. We're thinking about it, and Sam knows this because we've talked to their team to get feedback of what it should look like. So I hope we work together a lot more. But what we think a lot about is how do we enable and empower Sam's team, for example, and other partners like them to know what services they should provide, both for the topics or the categories. You know, how do we help you all be stronger at customer success tooling? How do we help you all be stronger with onboarding and implementation sort of processes, education with clients? Because a lot of that is change management, but it's also, okay, when you plug Arrows in, here's the sort of stuff customers typically need. They need their pipeline to be configured this way. They need these sort of workflow automations set up. They need these reports set up. If they're serving a certain type of segment, they might want an SMS provider. Here's how you would connect that with Arrows data through HubSpot. There's a lot of, you know, like a menu of offerings that we can help give to our partners that they can take to their clients. And if it works out and it makes sense, you know, we don't want them selling, you know, Arrows to people that don't need it. But if it makes sense, we want them to be informed and empowered to know when it is a good fit and also how it helps their business. You know, so when we think about Origin63, it's, you're caring about selling services. We need to help you sell more services, and Arrows is just a mechanism for that.
That's awesome.
That's a great point.
Yeah. I had a question. It's for you, Daniel. We talk a lot within HubSpot about activation, actually getting customers not only on the platform, but ensuring that they're really seeing value from the things that they purchase within a certain period of time, right? The time to value. You've said that there's a lot of ways to change time to value, that number, without adding, you know, more value for the customer necessarily. So I was curious if you could talk a little bit about that, sort of how you think about value within the context of customer onboarding, how you think about time to value, and sort of how you ensure that customers are getting what they need.
Yeah, I think time to value is a thing people love to talk about it, but it's a hard thing to measure because there's a couple of ways you change it. You can change what you're measuring as value. So I could just bring the value thing I'm measuring as something sooner in the process, and it might not actually be the right thing. Or a lot of people, I think, look at onboarding processes built in tools like Arrows and go, well, if you just delete half the task, you can kind of cut the time down in half. You know, it doesn't actually maybe help the customer.
Yeah.
I think Sam hit on something really important before with how they service clients. You know, onboarding, in our opinion, is just as much a sales function, an extension of sales pipeline, as it is, you know, the kickoff of an early customer relationship. So as long as you think about it that way, it's how do we take, you know, all the stuff we're selling to them, all the terms of the agreement, all the meaningful things that they're excited about, you know, the outcomes they're excited about receiving on the other side of, you know, saying yes to working with us, and how do we get them to make incremental progress towards those. So a lot of companies just, you know, kick people over the fence after they close a deal, and we schedule a kickoff call 2 weeks later. And as I mentioned, like the energy and excitement deflates. Whereas a tool like Arrows, we think a lot of it, we think about it a lot as a customer enablement tool. So take that excitement and all that momentum and all that eagerness to, you know, kick it off and give people work that they can do. You know, so here's the, you know, book the kickoff call, but also fill out this form and give us your files, and here's what's going to happen next, and demystify the process of what's coming. And so what, you know, if you think about time to value, it's really just continuing momentum towards an outcome. And, you might have a value moment that happens at the same time, but if you didn't maintain that momentum and that excitement through that whole stage, it feels very different to the customer. They still might not feel confidence in working with you beyond that. So typically with Arrows, when we've canceled a product or canceled an agency or service company we worked with, really it failed in that first 2 or 3 weeks. That's when we lost all confidence in our relationship with them. And so that's really the most important, is just maintaining that momentum through that period, in our opinion.
If I could ask a fast follow there, value can mean so many different things to different people, different customers. Like, I guess this is a question for either or both of you. Like, how do you think about value? Like, how do you measure that?
It's a tough one.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so dependent on every business too.
It depends. It totally depends. I think it's about doing that due diligence in the sales process to really uncover and understand what they're trying to achieve and aligning your solutions to that pain. Mm-hmm. So really making sure that we're hitting that and solving for that. For us, our value is so intangible because what we're really giving people is a system that works. And so the opposite of not having a system that works is a system that doesn't work. So how do you measure that? How do you figure it out? And I think the way that we've been thinking about it is, what's the current pain and what's the solve for that? And how are we going to measure that we've solved that?
Well, I love that. I love that.
We see a lot of that with our customers where, it's digging into what their pain is or what their goals are in the process and making sure you're aligning your process around that. But every customer, every client, they're going to be slightly different. A customer of HubSpot buying Sales Hub, you might have 10 onboarding this week and they all have slightly different goals, slightly different business types. And, I see this when I talk to your own onboarding team. They struggle with, how do we make sure, we have these sort of activation metrics we need them to do in the product, but how do we make sure those make sense to the customer? Are they things that they agree and believe are actually helping them get to that goal? Or are they along, we think of Arrows as a path to take off in a lot of ways. And, if you feel like you're pointing down the wrong runway, you're not going to really do the action that your partner is telling you to do because you don't trust it. So it is really tailoring it towards every customer, I think.
Yeah, I love that you use the word trust. I think that's so key. Were you going to say something, Sam? Sorry.
No, I just said I agree. I agree with everything that he just said, for sure.
Clip that part.
Thanks so much for joining us. Daniel, it's been a pleasure to hear about both of your journeys. Listeners, we'll see you next week for Good Morning Ecosystem.